Hello, I'm Mary Eileen Buss, one of the librarians at Long Beach Public Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make Beachy beaded bookmarks, which is our August craft. If you registered and got one of our Take and Make bags, you have almost all of the materials you need for this. The only other things you would need were a little bit of glue or clear nail polish and a pair of scissors to cut off your excess cord. So let's get started. I'm going to pause this a moment while I adjust my camera so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, now what I have set up on my table here, I've got about 2 feet of cord in a nice blue color, and I've got some beads and charm. As you can see, I put it on a plate so they don't roll out of the way. Another thing you can do is put down a cloth, like a dishcloth, or a couple of paper towels or something, so that they stay and don't roll on the hardwood. This is waxed cotton cord. It's 1/2 millimeter thick, which sounds very thin, but it's a good thickness. If you have one of our kits, you're all set. If you're getting your own cord to do more later, the important thing is to make sure your cord is thin enough to go through the holes in your beads. So you have to look carefully at sizes. Now the cord tends to fray on the ends as you work with it. The waxed cord isn't as bad as the plain, but it still does it. So what I've done is I've put a little bit of Elmer's glue on the end of this to hold it together as I work. We did that on all the ones in the kit. So the first thing we're going to do, and we're doing Beachy bookmarks here, that's what the kits are, but you can do any theme you want. It just depends on what you choose, what charms and beads. So we're going to start by putting a charm on the end. We have these really cute flip-flop charms that we found, and it's got a little loop on the top. So we just put the bead through the loop and tie a nice secure knot. I'm doing basically a square knot. You need to go around 2 or 3 times. I like to do 3 times. Pull it really tightly to make sure it's secure. When we're finished, we're going to cut off this little end of cord. That's what the scissors are for, but for now, just leave it on there. So the next thing we want is we want one of our beads, our larger beads. These that we gave you in the kits are 8 millimeter beads. 10 millimeter beads would look very good if you want to go a little bigger. 12 millimeter beads is getting kind of big. I definitely wouldn't go any higher than 12, and you probably don't want to go any bigger than 10. So what you do is you just find the hole in it and stick the cord through, and my cord is still trying to fray. I might have to add a little more glue. There it goes. And you just bring it all the way down against the knot above the charm. And then you put on 3 little beads. These are seed beads. They're the largest kind in the kits. They're the largest size of seed bead, about 3.5 to 4 millimeters. And we just, fortunately, the hole is big enough because we were careful. So you can do 3 beads of the same color if you have them and you want to do that. Or I like to use 3 contrasting colors. I think it adds a little more interest. And then let's see, I've got another shiny one here. The beads in our kits are all glass. The little flip-flop charms, I think they're polymer clay. So you put on 3 little beads, and then it's time for, you can either use the sea turtle that was in our kit, or if you'd rather not, you can use another one of the larger beads. And I'm going to use the sea turtle, and I'm going to string it this way. You can string it the other way if you'd rather have it go the other way around. It's entirely up to you. And then after you do either the turtle or another large bead, you do 3 more of the little ones, And again, if you've got them, you can do 3 the same, or you can do 3 different. And you just go right on. Like so. And then after those 3 more seed beads, we want 1 more of the larger beads. And that's one end of your bookmark. That's the big end. Now the next thing you have to do is tie a knot right above this last bead so that it doesn't shift too much. This is actually the hardest part, getting that knot snugged right up against the bead. But you just loop it around and tie a knot, and it helps, I find, whoops, see how it's trying to go up? It helps if you sort of, whoops, if you can sort of hold one end of it against the bead while you pull with the loose end. Whoops, and I know my beads are all separating, so I need to pull it apart and try it again. As I said, this is the hardest part. If you can't get it close, it's not a catastrophe. It'll still be a nice bookmark. It's just the beads will slide around more than you really want. Okay, so mine this time, usually I can do better than this. So you can see I've got a little gap there, so the beads will move a little bit, but not too badly. And then if you can, see if you can do another knot right on top of that, just to make it a little bigger, a little more secure. Yep, there we go. And then you're going to measure out about 10 inches. So I'm just going to use my hands. Whoops, at least 10 inches. 12 is good from the knot. So I'm just going to use my hands. If you've got a ruler and you want to be precise, you can do that. That's the part that goes inside the book, the bare strand. Now, some people make beaded bookmarks and they run beads all the way up this. But if you're going to do that, you need to use tiny little seed beads, much smaller than these, so that when you close the book, it doesn't have a big fat lump on the inside. Now, seed beads come really tiny. You want to use the really tiny ones if you're going to run them all the way up your cord. Those are kind of hard to work with, and you got to be careful about your cord size. But anyway, for the ones we're doing now, it's going to be a bare cord. You measure about 12 inches up from this knot above your other beads, and you tie another knot. This one, it doesn't need to be so precisely in the right place, so it's easier. And then try to tie another knot right on top of it if you can. See if I can get another knot right on top of it. Okay. And now you're going to put on the rest of your beads. We don't put as many on this end because the focus is on the first end. So we're going to start with 2 or 3, it's up to you, of the little beads. I'm going to do 3, but if you only want to do 2, that is entirely up to you. And bring them down to the knot. And you're going to put on another, whoops, and I dropped it, and excuse me while I go chase that across the room. Okay, so I've got it. So another round bead, or if you haven't used the turtle yet, the sea turtle, you can put that on here. Another round bead. You can see that. And now we're going to put on 2 or 3 more of the little beads. If you used 2 before, you want to use 2 after. If you used 3 the first time, you want to use 3 the second time, because you want them to match and balance. They don't have to match in terms of color, but you want the length of them to balance. So I used 3 before, so I'm using 3 at the end. And I have a few left over. That's okay. We gave you some extra. So you have some choices. And now we're going to, this is the end. We're going to tie another knot right above this last bead, as close to it as we can. So it's the difficulty again. You try to snug it way down. Hold it down. Yeah, I got that one pretty close. And now you have to tie another knot right on top of that one, because you want it to be very secure, because if this knot comes loose, you'll lose all your beads at this end. So you snug a nice tight knot there. Now you can see we've got extra cord left over. So you didn't have to start with a full 2 feet. The instructions I found online said 18 inches, but that wasn't really enough. My bookmark came out too short for anything but a little paperback. So I like to start with plenty of extra. You cut it off when you're done. Now, remember I said that we want to make very sure that these end knots don't come loose. This is where your glue or your clear nail polish comes in, because what we're going to do is we're going to put a little dab of glue on those 2 end knots to help set them. If you've got clear nail polish, that's even better. Go ahead and use that. But if what you've got, I don't have any, so I'm using glue. This is, as you can see, this is plain old Elmer's. But any nice clear glue, it's going to dry clear. Just put a dab on. The only tricky part here is you don't want to get it on the bead or on the charm, just on the knot. And we'll put it down and let it dry, and I'll put one on the other end. Just a nice little dab of glue to help it set. And my fingers are getting all messy because I'm dabbing it on with my finger. Okay, so I'm going to pause this a minute to let it dry, and then I'll come back and show you the very last step. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes, and the glue is not 100% dry, but dry enough that I can show you the next step. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut off the cord very close to the last knot. That's why it's important that you set it with the glue or the nail polish so that it doesn't, the little tiny little end doesn't come out. And then here, I'm going to cut it off very close. If you've got sewing scissors or scissors that you use for yarn, that's probably the best, but you know, the plain old paper scissors I've got work here. And then we've got ourselves a nice little bookmark. And while I had the recording paused, I brought over a book so you can show you how it goes. It just lays right inside the book and holds your place. Got a nice pretty thing sticking out on either end. If you'd rather, I put it in the bottom, but if you'd rather, you can put the big pretty one with the charm in the top. And as you can see, this bookmark is long enough. It could do a much bigger book than this. If you want to be able to put this kind of bookmark in like a big coffee table book or something, you can do that. Just make the cord longer. Works just fine. Okay, and as you can see, this is fairly simple. Just some cord, a nice charm, and a few beads, and you have a very pretty themed bookmark. So we hope you enjoy this, and we hope to see you in the library.